We're just okay, and we played some
Movies.
games. We're just okay.
Movie watchers.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Just Okay Movies. I'm your host, BIGGIESIZE, and I'm here with...
Hey, it's Gweedo.
And Wally.
Oh, fellas, how y'all doing?
Doing pretty good. I miss doing the podcast with you.
It's been a while.
I know, I missed it too. I'm sorry we didn't get one out last week. I completely lost my voice. I could barely talk above a whisper, and even that was painful. And, you know, I felt like that whole week I missed something. You know, we're only, I guess, like 23, 24 episodes in, and still just, it threw off my week a little bit. Like, I forgot to do something this week. Oh, yeah, the podcast. And I felt a little empty inside, you know, like just a part of my everyday life was just missing. And I did. I really miss talking with you all.
Oh,
And,
it feels
hey,
like that now, but give it a 5 years.
will it be like sweet release? Like, oh, thank
Yeah,
God.
you're like, oh, it's so nice to have a break.
Well, hey, what have you guys been watching? Guido, what's you watched any movies lately?
I've been on a bit of a horror kick lately.
Interesting.
Horror is a funny word.
It
sounds
is.
like whore.
Right.
So I haven't been on a horror kick. I've been on a horror kick. And
Oh, you know what? I can contribute to that.
cool. Yeah, I've been watching whatever I can find on Netflix pretty much. And the most recent and probably most enjoyable that I've seen is a movie called Creep. It came out in 2015.
Ooh, what's it about?
It's one of those movies where if I explain it, it like loses its it loses all its meaning, and like
Okay.
people don't go into it surprised. Basically, a guy is hired. He goes on Craigslist and he finds an ad where someone wants to hire someone to film for a day, and he says, you know, we're just going to go on a journey together, and I'll give you $1,000. And the guy responds to it and goes to meet the man. And yeah, just it's funny and weird and very creepy for the name. It's not bloody or gory. There's no paranormal stuff. It's just gives you this feeling of unease the whole time. And,
You bring up a... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
the main dude is he was in the League. I'm forgetting his name. I think his last name is Duplass or Duplass. Andrew
Okay.
Duplass or something like that. Have you ever seen the League?
Yes. Although
He's-
I don't remember his name.
He's one of those guys. Anyways.
Okay.
I've only ever seen him in the League. I think I saw him in that one movie where like the world was ending or something, looking for a friend for the end of the world, or no, time travel. He claims to be a time traveler in that other movie, but anyways, he does a very good job and really gives the feeling of he's like the main protagonist and antagonist of the film, and does a really good job of just making you feel gross.
Interesting. There's a point I wanted to bring up, and you know, when you mentioned the movie wasn't bloody or gory, just was very, I guess, very suspenseful or just downright creepy. You kind of feel like the term horror has really shifted over the past 20 years. The reason I bring that up is that the remake of It came out, and I think one of the big complaints was from viewers, I think more so younger viewers, was that it wasn't a horror movie. And it's because it apparently didn't have a lot of gore and a lot of things like that in it.
I don't think gore is a requisite. I think it's just a subgenre.
But I guess, what's that line between when horror ends and suspense starts? Like
Well,
a
there is
suspense thriller.
Yeah, thriller, I guess. I mean, like, I'll give you an excellent example because that's where I'm at. I don't get me wrong, I love like Evil Dead and shit, but like,
Sure.
and I'm not much of a horror guy. I don't like, honest to God, I don't like being frightened that much. So jump scare stuff isn't really my bag. But I love camp, and I love
Right.
Evil Dead and Army of Darkness, but I also love suspense. Like a really great example of a non-gory film is like The Others. Yeah, I think that'd be a really good,
But that's kind of paranormal stuff.
It is, yeah, but paranormal is a subgenre of horror.
Yeah, I think horror just casts this very large umbrella. There's
Huge.
There's suspenseful thrillers that don't fall under that umbrella of horror.
Sure.
I feel.
Sure.
I'm trying to think
The Game.
of some examples. Yeah, The Game. That's a good,
Perfect.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What about like the first Saw movie? Like I feel like the ones like after the first Saw movie were definitely more gory. I would say.
That's almost like a subcategory of gore, almost.
It kind of is. But like the first one didn't really. To me, I went into it expecting I guess what I would call a horror movie, and it was labeled as such, but really felt more like a suspense thriller because it had some like blood and things like that, but it wasn't like I can't think of a great example like Evil Dead, where it's just Dead Alive or any of those where it's just
well, actually,
in
if
full
you want to
display.
like bridge cross the streams a little bit between paranormal and gore, great example would be Event Horizon.
Oh sure,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's a sci-fi horror, I'd call it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's got everything. It's got ghosts. It's got hell. It's got spaceships. Man, did I really walk into one on that? I went to see that one in the theater, and I think I must have slept with the lights on for like a solid day or two.
Dude, that movie is creepy as hell. Man, those scenes of the videotape scenes. Oh my god.
Sam Neill will cash any check, but I love that guy. He's so weird.
It's a topic I've thought about quite a bit. It's like, where does that line in? Because it seems like when you think of horror movies nowadays, it's lots of, I don't know, like jump scares where it's like, you see like some bloody corpse like jumping out at you.
You see, I won't dismiss jump scares like some people would. It's not my thing, but I respect it. It occupies a space.
I don't like lazy jump
They're
scares.
cheap. It's lazy.
Yes,
It's cheap.
yes.
There's ones that aren't cheap that really make you work for it, and I love jump scares where the buildup is so intense and then nothing happens, and then there's a good like 30 Mississippi, and then they hit you with the jump scare.
Yeah. What's a good example of one? Let's just toss it out there.
Oh man, there's some. I just watched The Conjuring. Have you seen that?
Oh, that's so good.
It was okay the whole time though, because they're demonic investigators that go to investigate this house. This whole time though, I'm watching it, and they're like, they have these people come over, and they're like, oh yeah, it's a demon because demons do this thing that it's very specific in their actions, and they do this thing, and no one's like, what are you talking about? That's not. Everybody just takes what they say at face value.
Oh, but I mean that happens all the time. But I mean, yeah, you're right. Kind of in a similar vein, because I mentioned I said I can contribute. I just recently saw Hereditary.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's supposed to be
I want to see
yeah.
that.
I've heard
I'm
high
not going
praise
to
of
ruin
that
it.
one.
I'm not going to ruin it for you guys, but suffice it to say, there's elements of that, in the plot. But if you can get past that, though, it's a wonderful example of suspense and horror and bloodiness and just everything. I mean, that thing had me on pins and needles. Like it was just so good. The tension, you can cut it with a knife, and then the release at the end. Holy shit! Anyway, yeah, go for it if you want to see it.
Very nice. No, I've heard nothing but praise of that film. I think it even got a really high Rotten Tomatoes score. So that's good to hear that it's lived up to the hype. Very good. Well, I watched A Turd, and it was one I was actually kind of disappointed in. It's a little film called Power Rangers.
Ooh, yikes!
Yeah.
I watched that.
Yeah, I didn't finish it. I quit. I couldn't do it anymore. I love shit movies, but I love really good movies. I appreciate both. But
Am I a hack?
But it's just those films that just sit dead center. It's like they're too scared to take a risk. And I think Power Rangers is a perfect example. You had a range of possibilities you could take the material. You can go, like with the TV show, go super corny, we're the Power Rangers, we're here to save the day, that kind of thing, or, go just like so intensely serious and dramatic to the point of just being almost ridiculous in itself. Instead, it just kind of sits in that weird middle zone that you just feel like it was made by committee. Like, we want to be Power Rangers, but we can't let it be too Power Ranger-y. And
it takes them forever to become Power Rangers.
It's obnoxious.
That was a wet fart of a movie.
It was, and what I hate the most is, you kind of always have those movies that you personally like. If I was going to make a movie with this property or this concept, this is how I would do it. And almost to the T, they did it the way I would have done it as a director. And in that realization, I realized, man, I'd be making a shitty movie. And so that was kind of a realization for myself that, I guess making movies is kind of hard. And because they did everything I would do, and I hate watching this film. And
we're so fucking spoiled now, though. I think back about how like we'd be like fucking eating the breadcrumbs of movies like this when we were kids.
Oh sure. Sure.
We got like they threw things at us like a token gesture, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or like Stargate, or a Star Trek movie thrown in out of nowhere. But we got sci-fi was nothing until about the late 90s.
Right.
And
right.
This is or any kind of like whatever this is, genre wise.
Exactly. Like I guess maybe 10 years ago, hell, not even that long ago. Just when the movie was announced, I was really excited. I was like, finally they're going to do a Power Rangers movie. Maybe they'll do something kind of interesting with it. Because I was the age demographic when that show came out. I was right there. I mean, it got me hyped up. It got me into wanting to do karate and all that stuff. Like I was
cool.
I was in that sphere. And, but man, it's just so hard to explain how disappointing, not as a fan of the property, but just as a film itself, how you could just tell they wanted to just stick in that safe zone, that it will just kind of appeal to a bunch of people, and really ends up, I think, not appealing to anyone who's a fan of Star Trek, Power Rangers, or who's just a fan of an action film. Like, there's just nothing there. It takes too long to get to the good stuff, and at that point, you hate the characters because they're all awful, except for Billy. I do like how his character was. He was kind of fun. But other than that, it's a turd. I don't recommend it. By the time you get to where they're kind of training, you're so burnt out, and you still got another, 20, 30 minutes until it actually gets good, and I just don't care at that point. It's already lost you. But that was the last film I saw. Oh, go ahead.
You know what's a fun Power Rangers movie that's not Power Rangers?
What's
and
that?
Would be cool if they did it, a Power Rangers movies like it, and that's a movie Chronicle with Michael B. Jordan.
Yes.
Chronicle.
I agree.
Basically, a bunch of kids get powers, and one of them's like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna use this to take whatever I want."
Right.
And the other two are like, I'm not too comfortable with this. And they just end up fighting each other.
Right. No, I agree. That was way more of a new age Power Ranger movie than the actual one. And
do you remember the tagline from that movie?
No.
It's
all fun and games until everyone gets hurt.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if I like that.
No, I totally agree. And there was a lot of scenes that felt like Chronicle. And I guess it's not like really Chronicle did anything that was very original per se, but still it was done interesting. You liked the characters. It was an interesting situation, especially when the guy turns and they have to confront him at the end. That was just exciting.
Yeah.
But then you look at Power Rangers and it just feels like they probably looked at Chronicle. They looked at Avengers. They looked at all these things and said, let's just make it, but we're going to put it straight in the middle. And it's the poor way of doing that, not taking any risks. Chronicle took a risk and it paid off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I say right now we jump into our discussion for the evening. And
all right.
about a couple episodes ago, we did a discussion of games that we'd like to see as movies. And it seemed like a lot of people really enjoyed it. I think the best one that came of that was our Crazy Taxi movie. I mean, someone's got to make that. it was great. If you want to know what we were talking about, go back and listen to that episode. It was a fun one. But now we're gonna flip the table on it. Now we're gonna say, what are some movies that we would like to see as a game? And I feel like movie-based games have really gone out of vogue. I mean, 90s and early 2000s, it seemed like any movie that came out that was a big release, it had a game. It doesn't really feel like that's the case anymore, and probably had to do with
they
quality.
just get Lego games now.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is stupid.
It's got, the Lego games have definitely lost their charm. But you're totally right. I mean, you even think of a property like, I mean, any of the Marvel films that they've made, probably focusing way more on Avengers. There really hasn't been a console or PC release that's not a Lego game. Or I know they've done a couple of like MOBA style games, and I think they're already kind of shutting those down. But that's been about it. And you know, for movies that are making billions, you would really expect to see a game along with it. And you know, I almost would want an Avengers game. As good as Disney has been, and I mean, Disney's also been a prime culprit of making shitty movie-based games. But I feel like they became a lot more careful with that. I think they scrapped their Disney Interactive branch, and I would like to see them take on the Avengers and make a really good game out of it.
Yeah. Outside of superhero movies, though, there's a difference thematically, I think, between a lot of movies that have been released in the last 10 years than movies that are from what I would consider the classical era of straight to game from video. I mean, just, I don't know. I can't think of a lot of games that I would immediately adapt from movies off the cuff in the last few years, outside of like some action titles and whatnot.
Sure.
For Avengers, yeah, I think especially with AAA titles now, the development cycle is so huge, but you know that developers would want to get their hands on that IP just because it would sell 1 million copies in a weekend.
Definitely.
But Avengers they made an Avengers game, or they started to. There was this alpha footage, you can go Google it for an Avengers game, and it was a first-person Avengers game. So you could play as Iron Man or Thor and Captain America.
I remember that now. They released it.
Yeah. And then they scrapped it all. After they released this footage of this awesome looking Avengers game, and then they scrapped it. They abandoned the project. But yeah, Avengers would be great. Like there's so many, you can go so many options. Are you talking like a Marvel Cinematic Universe Avengers or just an Avengers?
That's a great question. I think what I would love to see is maybe not based off one of the films, but like a side quest or situation that they had to handle that's maybe not part of the movies, or maybe leads up to one of the movies. Would be kind of cool. Just anything, especially if Disney, they've been really careful with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know if they handed it off to someone to make a game, they would probably make sure it's going to be good. So I would love to see someone with a lot of talent behind it, a lot of money behind it, to make a really good Avengers game.
Man, it'd be so cool if there was if they could make it where you were a powered person. You get to kind of pick your powers a bit, and there's a whole perk system to it. And you are a young powered person and you want to join the Avengers. So they bring you on these easy missions to kind of start out, and then this is all taking place while the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going on. So that's why you're not in the main storyline. You're just kind of off to the side. Yeah. And then Civil War happens and you have to kind of pick a side of, are you going to work with Tony Stark and the government and become, part of the Avengers Initiative? Or are you going to go away with Captain America and do these side missions where, you have to float under the radar of government and not get captured while you're also trying to do the missions? And this whole time you have this perk system that you can build up your powers and make them more powerful. Go talk to Cap. He gives you a training lesson on how to make your powers a little bit better and how to control them. And Man, that'd be so cool.
Oh my god. That's what I'm talking about. They've got the resources and obviously there's a market for it, and it is a little shocking they haven't dove into it with a concept like that they could really just, not have to pump out a new one every single time a movie comes out, which is probably what they would want to do, but even just do like expansions to it that just builds upon the lore, with you having, as you said, this character that kind of sits a little more in the background, but you kind of feel like you have some sort of influence with what the movie showed. That's great. What about you, Wally? Any particular movie or anything you've seen that you're like, I would kind of like to play in that world?
Just any game straight up from any IP?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. Well, I knew about the thing ahead of time, so I worked on a list at work.
Okay.
And I actually would break it up into like categories based on what kind of game it could be. But one game I thought would be kind of cool, and you have to keep in mind that like I'm drawing from like a pool of movies that are probably a little bit outside the frame of reference of some of the more modern stuff. Because I went at it from like movies I grew up with that I would love to have seen as a game, but I didn't.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
Like there's like a sci-fi adaptation of the classic Western High Noon that had Sean Connery in it. He was a sheriff on a moon orbiting Jupiter. It's like a really rough mining station. And he uncovers some corruption between the mining company and some local, criminals. And they try to get rid of him. And he manages to basically be tough as nails and fight back. And it's called Outland. And it's really fucking cool. And I think it would make a great game.
Very interesting. That would be really nice. I've only seen bits and pieces of that movie. I've never watched it all the way through.
On the fantasy side, I think it'd be really cool to have now, I know a lot of, so I can't really be sure they didn't make games out of these, but if they did, it was either so long ago or so under the radar that I don't think it would matter if we did it again under a AAA developer. But I think The Dark Crystal would be a cool game.
Oh, sure.
They definitely made a game out of Willow, but I think a new Willow would be kind of cool. And same thing with like Highlander. And there's a movie called Lady Hawk. I thought would be a really cool RPG idea.
Interesting.
And back to sci-fi, just a kind of a short list without going into too much. The Running Man, which has had iterations of various forms. But I think the Running Man, Smash TV, yeah. But I think like a Running Man, but PUBG kind of a thing.
Sure.
I think that'd be big dope. Kind of a battle royale Running Man. Enemy Mine, which is kind of like a sci-fi between two alien races kind of a thing. Event Horizon I thought would be a great suspense sci-fi horror game. But they kind of already did it with what's that one? Something Space. The mining colony trilogy. Right. And so that but I think just different setting thematically, and it's not aliens, it's actually like a kind of some awoken evil. And then finally, I think Dark City would be really, really fucking cool if they could find a way of adapting it into a game.
Sure.
Very nice. That's a good list. One movie we watched not too long ago that I thought would be an awesome point-and-click adventure game was Adventures of Baron Munchausen. Like, just take that game and imagine like an old LucasArts point-and-click adventure. Oh, it would have easily have been a classic. Okay, maybe that's just me.
I don't know.
I would love an honest AAA shake at Stargate. Like, they had like some Nintendo stuff, and then there was like a few aborted games. But I would love a really, even if it was an MMO that could resurrect an MMO idea, do a Stargate SG-1 universe game, funded, fully developed, and completed. It'd be kind of cool.
Sure, absolutely. I always thought a game based off of Seven Samurai would be kind of cool. It's already a pretty interesting story, and there's actually been a lot of games. I know one in particular, Halo Reach. When it came out, they talked about that game being heavily influenced off that story. And I guess samurai games and stuff like that are starting to become a little more popular again. They've always kind of gone through waves. and had a lot of them at the beginning of the PlayStation and PlayStation 2. You saw lots of them, and then they kind of died off. But take a neat story like that and just make like an action game, some sort of like strong narrative game would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Oh, Gweedo, any other ones from you?
Yeah, I have a whole bunch too.
Oh, go for it.
But I'll just name a few. I think a more modern one that lends itself to being a video game world, because the movie is a video game. It feels like is John Wick.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
That'd be great.
Especially if it's like a prequel where you're John Wick and you're going and doing a set. There's so many games that are that already, Hitman or any kind of just run and gun game. But let's see what else. Evil Dead would be great, I think.
Army of Darkness and Evil Dead.
Yeah, Army of Darkness would be.
Those
cool.
are almost two different games.
Yeah, they absolutely are two different games. In the same vein as John Wick, Kill Bill game would be cool.
Kill Bill would be amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
You'd have all these fantastical characters that you have to fight and kill as a revenge game. Yeah, those are just a few off the top of my head.
Those are all good.
There's so many movies that have that video game feel. And I think I brought it up on a podcast a few weeks ago where I watched Annihilation, and that had just so many elements of video games that I recognized and felt. Almost like it was meant to be there. Like they were trying to convey that message. There's Half-Life elements and just like a shooter sci-fi element and these mutated monsters, animals running around. And it would just lend itself, the beautiful environments too. It would just lend itself to be a video game so well, I think.
Sure, absolutely. Well, hey, listener, if you want to share one of yours with us, definitely send us an email at justokmovies@gmail.com. I know we would definitely love to hear what the movies you'd like to think of as a game. And any other ones you guys want to share?
No, I think I covered some of the main ones.
Very cool. Well, hey, how about let's jump into an email?
Okay.
All right. We received an email from Tyler Bell. Hey, Just Okay Movies.
Ty Bellsprout.
Oh, is that Ty Bellsprout? Hey, man. Yeah. Hey, Just Okay Movies. What trailer for a show or a movie did you watch that made you decide to watch that, despite being originally disinterested? For me, it was Deadpool 2's trailer. It looked like it was going to be a lot of fun. It kind of felt like the X-Men movie we should have been inundated by, but never got. Had a little issue with that one. Is there a trailer you watched multiple times because you liked how it came together? I find myself doing that a fair bit for a few things. Thanks, Sprout. So let's take the first part of that question, and is what trailer sold you to seeing a film that you just did not give two fucks about? Gweedo, let's start with you.
Oh man, a trailer I enjoyed for a movie that I didn't really care for. That's tough. That's tough to just pull off the top of my head, Biggie.
Absolutely. Well, I'll start with mine.
That's a hard question.
It is a tough one. I felt like the last film we talked about, Solo, Star Wars story. That was definitely a film I did not care to see in any capacity.
Okay.
We heard about it being in the works for a long time, and I just as much as I love Star Wars and I like the Solo character, I just didn't care about seeing a film about him. And even the first trailer I was not a fan of, but by the time that second one rolled around, it sold me. There were aspects of it I didn't expect to see in that film, and just as a Star Wars film, the very kind of heist aesthetics and the plot line that it was showing in the trailer got me really intrigued, and ended up being a film I enjoyed way more than I expected. And I could also agree with the Deadpool 2 trailer. I was not really looking forward to Deadpool that much. I felt like I got everything I needed out of the first one, and didn't need to see that character again unless he was in a combination film. And I enjoyed the second one, not as much as the first. I didn't come out of it kind of happy I saw it, but the trailer did sell me enough that I was interested to go and see it. And I guess those are my two most recent ones that I can think of. Wally, you have any you can think of?
I had to rack my brain, I guess, a little bit, but I guess if I had to say where the trailer kind of redeemed my interest, because I already had an innate bias, was probably The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Ooh, interesting choice.
Only because it was such a popular book, and I figured, here's an adaptation of a popular novel that everyone's reading. It can't be that good. This whole thing's kind of dumb. And you know what? It wasn't half bad, and it convinced me to go see it. And I actually read the book after it, and it was whatever. It was, that's really odd. It's a really weird question,
Sure.
That's the one I guess it kind of stands out at me. They actually have a much better answer for the other one. And I think this is probably an answer that once Gweedo hears it, he may at least agree that this happened to him as well. But if I can think of one movie trailer throughout all the ones I've seen, and this isn't stand up on top, it just stands out, is when the trailer dropped for The Phantom Menace.
Okay.
I think I must have watched that 8,000 times.
Sure.
Only because, hey, new Star Wars. And the trailer was good.
It was.
But I ended up hating the prequels. But I remember watching that fucking trailer over and over again because, hey, Star Wars.
Yeah.
No. And it was a good trailer. It really, really was a solid one.
Anakin, get on the ship! I can still quote it. I mean, stupid.
Well, Gweedo?
I've thought about it, and a movie that I wasn't particularly interested in because I remember this is a reboot. I remember the earlier movie, and I didn't much care for it. But the newest It movie.
Ooh.
You saw that trailer, and they did such a good job of giving you just enough to make you want to get into it. And there was that one part in it where the kid is it builds up. You hear him say, we all float down here or something like that. Remember this? Or you'll float too. No, he's like, come join me down here. I'm floating and you'll float too. And then he goes, and you'll float too. And you'll float too. And it just gets louder and louder while showing these scenes from the movie that it is just making it super tense for you. And by the end of it, I was like, oh, fuck. I guess I got to see this now.
Yeah, it was a really good trailer. I've never seen the original It. And after seeing that trailer, I still haven't watched the new one either. I was like, it's got me interested in that story. And I wanted to go back and watch the first one before I jump into the remake.
Oh, and the Blair Witch trailer.
Oh, the Blair Witch trailer, yeah. That actually got me into the theater. I wasn't even planning on seeing that in the theater.
Right, I didn't know what the fuck that movie was, and then they show this trailer, and there was a lot of hubbub at the time, oh, it's real, this is footage they found in the woods, which anyone with half a brain knows that's not true.
That was masterful marketing, though. I mean, that girl crying into the camera almost became part of our cultural lexicon for a hot minute.
Right, and that was one up there as one of the ones where I saw it and I was like, oh fuck, this is there's sometimes where you see something and you're like, oh, this is gonna kind of change things. I felt that with this movie.
I think it should have in certain regards, and maybe it did. We just didn't notice the latent impact. But there was something iconic about it, and you can't take it away. What's a real shame is when they fucking cash in a sequel. Do you remember the Blair Witch 2, The Book of Shadows, I think?
Yeah.
What a fucking disgrace.
Wasn't it supposed to be like a time piece, like it was way in the past or something like that?
I don't fucking remember, and I think that says everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember hearing that it was completely different, like not even close to the original film. And yeah, that seemed like a really odd step, a bold step. I guess I could give them that, but yeah,
It's not
definitely
bold.
seemed
It's a
like a
cash in.
well, yeah, that's true too. Well, Guido, is there a particular trailer you watched that you watched it a bunch of times, or maybe there's a bunch of trailers you did that with?
Oh man, I'm kind of one and done with trailers. I just
Well, they're fucking them up now, aren't they?
I'm getting to the point where I just
over-explain the
shut them
plot.
off.
Right,
Uh,
right.
And I yeah, there's not many that I would like to watch over and over. I probably watched Avengers maybe 4 or 5 times, but that was because we did a podcast on the trailer.
Oh, right. That makes sense. I think if there was a trailer I watched the most of, well, they released 2 trailers I loved, and I don't know how many times I've watched them. It's for a Star Trek 2009. I was so pumped for a new Star Trek film, but still very wary because Nemesis was not great. Really, all the Next Generation films were not great, and I was
they were pretty bad.
they're bad compared to the show. They are pretty awful.
Remember, was that like was that one where they were like on an alien planet and the villain were like these skin scratched guys?
Oh, Insurrection.
That's like the forgotten TNG movie. It's so bad.
Oh, it's so bad. Like all the sets are made of cardboard and everyone's dressed in like brown, like different shades of brown. Like it's just
bad.
so awful. And Nemesis was just downright depressing and not fun at all. You know, they were all not great. So already like, okay, they're making a new Star Trek film. They're going back to the Kirk and them kind of coming together. And it sounds good. Sounds like a good clean slate and going with their, well, we didn't know it at the time, but with a whole different timeline, which is the good call, honestly. And that first teaser trailer dropped, and all this is just shots of them building the Enterprise, the Constitution class Enterprise, and it just brought goosebumps to me. Like I went and I heard the trailer was coming out, and they were going to show it first. Was that monster movie Abrams made, Cloverfield? It was going to premiere there, and oh my goodness, like I just went and saw that movie twice just so I could see the teaser trailer. And then when it was online, I downloaded it from iTunes and watched it I don't know how many times. Then the second trailer came out and it was just as good. And I watched it, oh God, I don't know how many times. And it was just a film I was already excited for, but the trailers were so well done. And the only other movie I can think of that I watched the trailer for a bunch of times as well was the Force Awakens teaser. Because that was just...
I mean, Star Wars trailers
well
in
done.
general. You're just like, oh, more.
Right. That's an interesting noise. No, I agree. They're very well done. And especially kind of like with the Phantom Menace, with Force Awakens, it had been so long that, and, being in, new hands, we're really excited to see how they would use that material. But hey, Ty Bell Sprout, excellent question. Thoroughly enjoyed that question. Well, I say it's about time we wrap things up then. If you want to
Don't
send
tell me
us
what to do.
Wait, don't you want to play this voicemail or anything?
Yeah. Let's play the voicemail then.
All right, voicemail it is. Here it is.
Hey guys, Mountain Sage here. What's a movie that you watched that was just real weird and you just kind of didn't get? A movie that just made you say, what the fuck did I just watch? That's it. Bye.
A movie we watched that made us think, what the fuck? Oh boy, there's quite a few. Any one movie in particular stands out for you guys?
Yeah, there's a few.
Oh,
Pick a favorite, I guess.
Again, I'll bring up Annihilation. The end of that movie is you don't understand what's going on, and but it's so good. The lead up to it is good that you don't mind so much that it leaves the rest of the conclusion up to the viewer's imagination, pretty much.
Very nice. The only movie I can think of, and it's a movie I loved, was 2001, A Space Odyssey.
Really? It's a little confusing.
More
there.
so, the end. You know, it's just an ending I wasn't expecting. And,
The end is a very, yeah, it's a lot of metaphor.
Extremely. I know there's a lot of ways to take. I mean, just take the obelisk. I think that's what they kind of called it. The big black brick that just kind of follows them around. You know, what is that supposed to be? I mean, on its own, it's a neat element, but then what happens at the end is it just kind of blows your mind, and it's awesome. It's fun to watch because the film is just very well done. It's the cinematography is outstanding. You wouldn't expect less from Kubrick. The story is so much fun. I couldn't believe that movie was made in the 60s because I watched
it's Kubrick.
yeah. It's incredible, and even the way it was shot, how it looks today. I watched it on when it released on Blu-ray, and it just blew my mind how great everything looked.
He did a phenomenal job.
Oh, he did. And I thought, wow, you know, like being in the 70s, like this, man, this is outrageous. And then I looked, it's like 1964 or something like that. I was like, holy crap. Like there's movies made in the late 90s that don't look this good. And you're right, it's Kubrick. You know, everything's a well-made model, and the acting's really well and well done, and a lot of it's told visually. It's a great film, but the ending is a what the fuck. And it's just so well done.
What about Waking Life? Have you seen Waking Life?
I have not.
No.
It's a movie that has Keanu Reeves in it and Robert Downey Jr., Woody Harrelson, Wiley Wiggins, if you remember him. And it's all rotoscoped. So it's an animation movie, but it's all the actors act, and then they take the film and they rotoscope it all, like draw over every single person and turn it into an animation. And it's a lot, like they're doing a lot of drugs in the movie because it's about drugs, and it's a lot of them pontificating about certain things that just go into full detail, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on? It makes you feel like you're high while you're watching it. And I don't know if it's a great movie. Okay, I watched it high, I'm sure, because it came out early 2000s. So, but yeah, I just remember, and still to this day, being like, what the fuck was that movie? Waking Life.
Waking Life. No, I haven't heard of that, but it has made me think of another Keanu Reeves movie that really threw me for a loop, and it was A Scanner Darkly. I think that came out early 2000s. Keanu Reeves, Robert Downey Jr., bunch of other people.
That's what I'm thinking of, not Waking Life. I'm thinking of Scanner Darkly.
Right. It's all very... The animation was so cool. Like, even looking back on it, it's still very fascinating. Yeah, I had no idea what in the world. There's something about... Were there even scanners, or was that just a metaphor? I don't even remember. I watched it 3 times, and I couldn't... I was sober when I watched it, and I had no idea what was going on. But I recommend it, just for the visuals alone. A very solid movie.
I think I got one for I that's what I want to make it clear. I enjoyed it, but I had to really think about it afterward. And the comic that it was based on, I'm told, is the graphic novel is just as similar. But The Fountain.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that, but man, I had some trouble figuring out the time differences and what was going on.
Right.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of metaphor in there too.
Definitely. Yeah, I've heard that it's a very trippy movie.
It's beautiful though.
Very nice. Well, Mountain Sage, great question. You're the first one to send us a voicemail, and hey, if you want to send us a voicemail, just call us at 931-389-1812, and you can also find that number on justokmovies.com. And also send us a voice or an email at justokmovies@gmail.com. And hey, shoot us a tweet. No, I haven't got any tweets lately. Come on, I love them. It's so much fun, like just having my phone like next to me at my desk, and I just get a tweet about a movie question or a comment. It's a lot of fun. Makes my day. We'll talk about them on the air, and we're at Just Okay Movies. So, fellas, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a great episode.
You, Biggie.
Oh, I love you too, buddy. I love you, Gweedo. And I
Hey,
love
thanks.
you, listener. Oh, you're very welcome, man. So we'll come back at you with an episode next week. All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.